So there has been a lot of talk recently about Pokémon Horizons. As it comes to the end of this major arc, people are wondering what happened. Has the series had a major dip in quality, or is it just as good as it ever was? Let's talk about it. So I think the main problem with this series is the stories being dragged out. The whole show has been based around this one plotline. We find the 6 heroes, we go to Rakwa and we stop the explorers. That is basically it. And when the climax happened back in episode 89, where we finally put a stop to Gibeon and him and Lucius passed into the afterlife, we thought that may be it with this story, but it wasn't. And the talks of the series dipping is mainly when it comes to the time skip. And I do agree to a certain extent, the show doesn't feel the same post time skip. It feels a bit rushed, a bit messy, everyone is getting super power ups with barely any explanations or earning them. It's just a big contrast to the start of the show, where the character's growth and development was really slow. I remember people complaining at the time that Liko and Roy weren't growing quick enough, so I think it just went from 1 to 100 really quick. And I personally enjoyed the slower development that we saw in the first 45 episodes. I do think it was a smart choice to make Spinel the main focus and the big villain for the time skip. The problem is we've barely seen the guy. In this time skip, the explorers haven't had anywhere near as much development as they had in the early days. We used to see them most episodes, see what they were plotting and getting up to. Spinel has just been sat in his chair for like 40 episodes and done barely anything. He was so much more menacing when he wasn't the main villain, and it's down to him not getting enough focus or screen time. And it's a pattern for the time skip. The same could be said about so many other characters like the rest of the explorers and the adult Rising Volt tacklers. If you're not in the main 4 of Roy, Liko, Alt and Dot, most likely you've been overlooked. Even my man Freed was just forgotten about for ages. It was a great fake out moment and death plotline that they did with him, but then he just returns with barely any explanation and then he leaves again for like another 10 episodes. The way the characters have been handled post time skip is a bit strange. The quality of the series and the story in general has been very up and down. There have been some episodes that have truly been incredible. I tend to be drawn to the character focused episodes. For example, the recent Dot 2-parter where she wonders if she's strong enough to be a main battler, then she finally has her Quaxwell evolve. That's where Horizons has always thrived, but for the majority of the time skip they seem to just wham crazy battles into every single episode. They go to Blueberry Academy and are having these huge battles, and they go to the Elite Four again and there's like 4 battles in one episode, and then they battle Rayquaza again. We're just getting so many soulless battles in our face and it's kind of ruined the meaning of battling. I don't think these battles have had the same care and attention as some of the earlier battles or some of the big battles in the Ash era, so it feels a bit lazy and pointless to just be cramming in so many, and they clearly can't afford to make these battles pop and stand out as they deserve because the animation hasn't been great. So I don't see why they don't just slow down a bit. But the Rakwa plotline does finally seem to be coming to the end in this arc, as the Rising Volt tacklers have returned there again. But I do get the complaints, we've done this already, it feels like we're repeating the same thing we already did. Face down the final threat in Rakwa, have everyone gather and the 6 heroes come to help. It was amazing the first time, but Spinel should have had his own goals and his own threats. I like the idea of the strong spheres and making the world hate the Rising Volt tacklers. That is Spinel at his best. But in the end, none of that really matters because the story is going back to the same place again, getting rid of the Requiem core. And with the announcement of Winds and Waves not coming until 2027, we have another year of Pokémon Horizons and we're going to be getting a whole new arc. We've had a poster for it, and like a lot of people have said, it is giving off massive Decalore Island vibes. It does look wild. It looks like they're incorporating stuff from all the spin-off games, Pokemon Pokopia, Pokemon Unite, and even Pokemon Sleep and Go, which is crazy. So I am excited and interested, but at the same time I don't really know what to expect. I feel like it's going to be weekly shenanigans, no real tightly knitted story. I don't see how we can develop the kids anymore. They're already so OP. So I don't really know how they can stick the landing with another season, but still it could just be more fun and some adventures. For me, one of the main problems with Horizons is the lack of competitiveness, the lack of big battles that mean anything. You think back to the Ash era and we had every 15 to 20 episodes, or even sometimes smaller, we had a big gym battle that Ash would be building towards, and then we knew everything that he was working towards would pay off at the league at the end. I'm really missing that kind of tournament style action. Pokemon was basically a sports anime, and Pokemon in general, it's all about competition and and battling. Sure, we deal with big evil threats from time to time, but Horizons dived fully into that as the whole thing, which was nice for a time, but for a fourth and final year it would be great to focus on battling again, focus on characters and their dreams. What do they even want? I have no idea what Liko and Roy want to do anymore. They've been so focused on just trying to defeat the Explorers. What are their own dreams for the future? What are their goals once this is all over? How is Dot streaming coming along? Does she even do that anymore? I feel so much life and soul of the characters is gone. We're missing a lot of what made Pokemon great, and I'd really like to get back to all of that. I think back to the early days of Horizons and I love these characters so much. The slow, fleshed out development we got with everything. I was ready to keep these characters around for a long time, but now I'm struggling to see where they can go from here. Roy and Liko own legendaries. They feel so OP as of now. What else can they go on to do? I mean, we could get a team reset like Ash used to do in each series. I think the possibility is high that Rayquaza and Trapagos both stay on Rakua to protect the land when it's all said and done, but I just don't know what's next for these characters and how much further can they go. I don't think by any means has Horizons become a bad series, I just think it's failing to live up to the very high standards that it set itself early on. Rushing a lot of plot lines, no explanation for stuff, like Amethio and his Zygarde, things just appearing out of nowhere, when the first half of the series was very detailed and a big part of the story was the adventure, the journey to get to these places. There's also been a lot of quick travelling to all other places. I mean, Roy flew from Galar to Johto hanging off of his killer Wattrel, which is still hilarious but crazy to me. Horizons is still very capable of captivating me and giving us some great moments, and even now standalone episodes are very enjoyable. But I think it missed a lot of the potential it had. It really could have been an all-timer. I remember after the Terrestrial arc, I was thinking if this carries on in this trajectory, this could challenge Diamond and Pearl for my favourite Pokemon series. But I don't think it's hit them heights again personally. But I will always look fondly on Horizons for doing the impossible, for following up Ash and giving us something new, fresh and dynamic, giving us some great character depth and development. The recent arcs don't take away from the amazing job they've done initially. I think they maybe just have overstayed their welcome with a few things and should have pivoted and focused on a different overarching story rather than going back to familiar grounds. I still think when it's all said and done, this series will be fondly remembered for its moments and characters, and most of all its story. We've never had a more tightly knitted storyline for the first few arcs. It was something brand new for the Pokemon anime, and you have to respect what they achieved. But for now, we are in a weird place where we wait for this plotline to end and we move on to a mix and mash of loads of different elements. From the poster alone, I feel we're going to be getting more and more of the same problems, things just happening, it feeling like a showcase of Pokemon rather than a cohesive story, which is not what I personally want, but who knows. We will have to wait and see what the future of Pokemon Horizons brings, and then someday look ahead to a Winds and Waves anime. I'm always grateful that we even still have a Pokemon anime going, and I'll always be here to watch it and support.